All right. So I'm going to take a moment to go over some meeting logistics before we get started. This is a hybrid meeting. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and recorded for later viewing. A copy of the recording will be posted on the City Transition website under the past meeting and events. For today's meeting, we have closed captioning, ASL and Spanish interpretation available tonight. To access Spanish interpretation, please click on the globe icon at the bottom right of your screen and select Spanish. To access closed captioning, click the CC button at the bottom right side of your screen. Committee members, please change your chat settings to everybody's so folks listening today can follow along. The meeting chat is part of the public record. Community members listening in, we have Zoom Q&A feature available. Please submit questions or comments through there. We may not be able to answer all the questions today, but there will be part of the meeting record. With that, I will now pass it to Destiny to review the agenda.
Interpreters with their hands raised. Thank you. Thank you, Guillermo. Could we pass it to the next slide, please? So tonight's agenda includes committee business, public comment, the work group recommendation on city administrator recruitment, change management and employee engagement, identify priority issues for the new leaders and the GTAX onboarding presentations, and then reflections over the last 2 years into the transition. At the end of our meeting today, we will review our upcoming meetings. I do want to acknowledge that the election is probably on everyone's mind, and we will spend our January meeting debriefing the election with the city and county elections offices. We did this purposefully to scheduling the debrief in January because that's when the elections office will have significantly more information than we currently have right now. And I also want to remind folks here that election results are not official until December 2nd when they are certified. We do have time at the end of this meeting for general reflection. So if folks do want to share any immediate reflections about the election, you will have time to do so then. Next slide, please. So no one has let us know that they won't be able to attend. So we do expect full attendance. We need to approve the October 8th meeting summary. Does anyone have any corrections before I entertain a motion? I'm checking on the panelists for any raised hands. Okay.
Destiny, could I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, on the minutes, there were points that during the city's onboarding process in December, you know, that's for the new elected officials, but GTAC member, you know, GTAC doesn't join that. But I wanted to clarify that during the time that GTAC gives a presentation, that GTAC members can join that portion. Am I making sense when I say that? Yes.
I'm gonna mute so that Shoshana can unmute. Thank you, Shoshana. I've unmuted myself again. So she will get that information to us. I know they've been trying to schedule those dates and the timelines and the presentations with staff and upcoming council. So that is not set in stone, but we do have the time for the onboarding. And so we'll get more information. Any other corrections or mentions for the October 8th meeting? Pausing again. Like I see a hand raised. Sorry, Zoom updated on me today. No.
Fred's hands raised.
Oh, Fred has his hand raised, and I will mute, and Fred can unmute.
Yeah. I move approval of the October 8th meeting summary.
Thank you. Fred moved. Do I have a second? Jose seconded. Okay. And then I'm gonna see fingers up, fingers down for approval. I see hands, fingers. Okay, they have passed. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And next slide, please. Thank you. As a reminder, in September, Bill and I were appointed as co-chairs. Bill agreed to serve from October to December, and I volunteered to serve October to November. A few months ago, we did discuss staggering co-chair rotation, so only one new co-chair would begin at a time. We've asked members multiple times to let the co-chairs and staff know if they are interested in serving. There's Q&A notices. I'm pleased to share that Jose has volunteered to serve December through March and will replace me. And then Fred has also volunteered to serve January through March, who will then replace Bill. I want to thank you both for volunteering. And for everyone else who has served as chairs, whether it's the full committee or subcommittees, you have all been amazing. And before I entertain a motion to appoint Jose and Fred, does anyone have any questions? I'm going to pause for a second for people to raise their virtual hands in case they do, so then I can unmute myself and ask you to, or mute myself and ask you to unmute. I'm still awkwardly pausing. No one has raised their virtual hands. Ooh, you want to, okay, I'm going to mute.
Hi, this is Zach. My question, I guess, is we're doing the cycling of co-chairs. Just a reminder for the group, who will be the representatives for GTAC at onboarding?
I unmuted myself, and that should be happening in December, correct, is my understanding. And so if it goes into December, that would be, I believe me and Bill at that time, most likely. Or Jose. It could be Jose, but whoever falls on whoever falls on the day, I have nothing but confidence that it's going to be awesome. And I'm assuming the whole committee will be invited to attend, but I will still be there if that's the case.
That's an assumption and confirming
And they couldn't hear you, Zach. So he was.
Sorry. My confirmation was that the invitation was for all of us at GTAC to be at onboarding. My original assumption was that it was just the GTAC co-chairs, but we're going to get information back from Shoshana on that point.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for a second to make sure that our interpreters have been co-hosted, either from Guillermo or Shoshana. Thank you, everybody. And Joe, sorry.
I did add Joe.
I got everybody. Okay. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so now I'm going to entertain if anyone wants to bring a motion to approve or to appoint Jose and Fred as our next co-chairs. Terry has moved it. Do I have a second? Lori has seconded. Awesome. I'm going to pause in case anyone has any comments. And then now I'm going to move it to a vote, please. Let me see. Thumbs up for yes and thumbs down for no's or sideways for abstains. I'm looking around. I see all thumbs up, all thumbs up. Amazing. I see them all there. Great. Congratulations, Jose and Fred, for being our next co-chairs to end our term. We will see that transition happen. Do we want to pause just to say some words? I'm going to unmute or mute and then send it to Jose.
I guess I'll just say that I'm excited to finish up GTAC. I think everyone knows that I've thought that working with the current council has not been the best use of our time. So looking forward to spending my time working with the incoming council and seeing what they have to say, what their ideas are for Portland.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to wrapping up our 2 years of turmoil and trauma and good labors. I think it's been an amazing experience for everyone, those of us who have survived through this. And I hope that we don't flag in our efforts to communicate our recommendations and to work with the new council as they begin to coalesce and work out their own issues, hopefully while considering our recommendations and how we might help them in this transition. It's exciting. I appreciate all the volunteers that are working on the final report. It's going to be a critical document, and I hope to work with Jose and Julia and Guillermo and the transition team on getting it over I think of, I'm not good at football analogies, the goal post. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. And then, so I think we have gotten all of our translator. Again, thank you for bearing with us with the tech and filling in roles. I appreciate it. Now we're on to co-chair responsibilities. I do want to be mindful that we're going a little bit over time. So I just want to highlight again that that our working, next slide, with the working agreements. Yes. I do want to, again, talk about, especially today, we have so much to cover and we want to hear everyone's voices. So I'm not going to go over the working agreements to save time, but I do want to remind people to remember that we want to hear everybody's voices and seek to understand everybody's voices. So that means if you step up, I also want to encourage people to step back because we haven't heard everyone collectively. And if you go to the next slide, please, Shoshana, thank you. Bill and I did meet and we spoke a little bit. So we wanted to share some agreements we wanted to hold ourselves accountable to as your co-chairs. One of them being that we want to set the expectation that we're not going to extend meetings, that it is our collective responsibility to aim to stay on time and on task. Last month, we did lose 2 members when we extended 5 minutes over, and they were not able to be counted in our final vote that we took after 8 p.m. And I do not want to personally see that happening. So we want to set that expectation to manage the time that we have together and also how much space we take up. And it's hard. We're passionate. So I do want to hold us to step up, step back, and be conscious of our time. We also want to respect the interpreters' times here and the staff that we do have, acknowledging that it costs city dollars and it also it interferes with their workload. Also, we are trying to write down any motions that will require a roll call. That when we hear a motion, we just ask that you're patient so we get the right verbiage together so that we can write it. Everyone's agreeing and understands what we're voting on. So we have included at the end of our slide decks extra slides in case the motion is brought up. So again, just your patience as we keep trying to practice that. And then also that we're adhering to our working agreements, again, to step up, step back. We want to ensure everyone is heard because there's so much expertise and thought in this room. And we want to be reflective of the full committee's ideas. And so with that, I will switch it over to Guillermo for public comment.
Yes, me. To give public comment, community members were asked to sign up ahead of time on our website. Nobody signed up ahead of time, so if anyone in attendance would like to testify, please raise your Zoom hand and we can promote you in the room. I'll give it a few seconds. All right. As always, folks can give public comment through our website by emailing us at transition@portlandoregon.gov or by calling 311. With that, I will go on to the next slide and pass it over to Bill.
Oh, okay. I'm going to mute myself and Bill will unmute.
Thank you, Guillermo. At our last GTAC meeting, we approved a motion to have a working group draft a recommendation that recommends our future mayor and city council be briefed on and support the process that was outlined by Modus for hiring the city administrator. And Juanita, Terry, and Zach drafted a letter, and that was attached to one of Julia's emails, a letter to the mayor-elect and the councilors with regard to GTAC's consideration. They've drafted it for our review and approval. The document was distributed last week, and if we approve it today, we won't send it until after December 2, because that's when the elections are certified. So we don't want to be premature. Now, Zach made the initial motion. So Zach, will ask you, you can share some takeaways and introduce the letter of recommendation.
Thanks, Bill. Make sure. No. We're getting some reverb. Hold on.
That's me.
Okay. No worries. Thanks, everybody. Just in order to make up some time, I'm gonna kind of give a high-level overview. Terry, Juanita, and I met once, October 24th, and we kind of laid out what the vision was as we understood it from our motion and the intention. So on the screen that you can see, these are some of the considerations that we documented from that conversation. There was general agreement that the main purpose was that we want to make a recommendation that this city administrator is not strictly a political appointment. So if you go to the next slide. So we put together these draft recommendations, and it kind of generally outlines what we heard from Modus, and that we want to encourage a similar process to ensure that this is a kind of standard practice for future, both this coming city administrator, but future city administrator appointments. And I think with that, I'll just leave it to if there are any questions of that process or questions, proposed revisions to the recommendations. Amy has her hand up.
Yeah. Okay. This is might be a silly question, but the recognized Modus's recommended recruitment plan is a good example to follow. Didn't the city hire Modus to do recruiting? So are we just saying like follow the plan you paid for already? can we be more explicit with that? Like, can we just say the city has spent this amount of money to date, don't waste that money? Or something that's a little bit more on the nose than like recognize Modus's recruiting, because what we're trying to be either we're trying to be sassy or we're not. You know, I feel like that could either be more pointed or be left off.
Destiny, can I respond to that? Okay, so your point's taken. I do think we're the trajectory that we're trying to throw with this is not the the city should use the money it's spending as much as it's also speaking to the desire for us to have a kind of rubric for futures. So like to have the process of doing a search, and I think the microphone's going to start reverbing for everybody online.
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. All right, let me know when it. Okay,
Once you're done.
got it. So that's the reasoning behind it being kind of vague and not spelling out the one time only of Modus being the like, let's make sure that they don't waste that money that the city has spent, but this is what the city has done, like as a structure for doing a recruitment. Can we use this for all future recruitments as well as like a, doing a national search, having interview with community members and that kind of thing as an example, kind of a case study for what is an effective recruitment process.
It is me. Yeah.
Can the people online hear us?
Can you give thumbs up if you can hear us online? Oh, it's working.
And you're here. Someone write that.
Online speak. If there's anyone online that can speak.
Leah, could you unmute yourself if you can hear us?
I can hear you.
Hey.
Okay, everybody.
It's great.
Can you show us how to do that? The staff. It's an ongoing problem.
I don't know.
So there's
You don't have time.
We don't have time. We'll show them. Okay, thank you so much, Clark.
training session. We're more than
I don't want it. We want the, okay. Thank-
I'll have coffee with you.
Okay. Great sound. Thank you, everyone. I know we're kind of running low on time and there's a lot of hand raised, so I want to get through these questions. So if you can be brief, and maybe we can't respond to all of them, but we can capture them. So I'm gonna send it to Juanita.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add that part of the discussion was that we didn't want to go and redo the work that, that Modus was making the work, because they are professionals who are in the business of doing recruitment for this type of positions. So we decided, what we thought it would be that instead of going and giving very specific examples, just say, this is the model that they're presenting and it's a good model to follow. But I recognize the comment from Amy, and I think that, we should be open totally to whatever if she feels that she has language to recommend, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. We didn't hear all of it because it's very quiet.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I did hear that you're also susceptible or like open to Amy's addition. And plus your context. We missed a little bit of that.
Yeah, just in terms that when we talk about recognizing Modus recommended recruitment plan, we felt that they're the professionals that they're basically, their job is to do this type of recruitment for this type of position. And so we just want to we just accepting that they're recognizing their experience as professionals, but at the same time, make the additional recommendations to ensure that the things that we felt it was important, where it was important, they will be taken into consideration. And I want to thank Julia for the process that she followed. By the time when we met, she developed a really nice process by which we all were able to have very targeted discussion based on the things that the motion have identified for us to work on. That's all. Thank you. I hope it's better.
There was just reverb, so
So in order for people in the room to be heard, I think I have to unmute this.
I think I was.
Can you hear me, Leah? Okay, she's shaking her head. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Leah, would you like to unmute and share briefly?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I'll be brief and just say my question is about the final 2 bullet points and wondering if they're in contradiction with one another. In that I agree that it's important to include community, but equitable engagement takes time. And I wonder if it makes sense to encourage an equitable engagement process while also asking them to accelerate the timeline. Without prioritizing one or the other. I think if I were to look at that, I'd be like, that's a lot to ask, and you want us to do it sooner. So I don't necessarily think one of them needs to be removed, but I do want to flag that. Thank you.
Yes, Shoshana.
I hear you, Leah, and I appreciate the comments. I just do want to remind everyone the number of listening sessions that went into the development of the MODIS proposal. So however you land on your recommendation, know that there was listening sessions and a survey that helped build this work, in addition to all of the work done by the Charter Commission to develop the requirements within the charter. So if you looked at the chartered language, and the requirements for expertise and commitment to our city core values, the impacts of human-made climate change, those are things informed by the community, as well as the recommendations that you receive from MODIS. So just wanted to make sure that you are kind of considering that as you're developing your recommendation.
Thank you, Shosh.
Okay, great. Just very briefly, before you send the letter, I noticed it and I don't have it in front of me. There were a couple of grammatical issues and some punctuation issues. So if somebody could read it again and make sure that their verbs or tenses are parallel and so that it reads better and more accurately. I agree entirely with the group's recommendations, but just take another look at it before you send it. If not, I can look at it tomorrow and tell you what I think is needed to be corrected.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you could refine it for us.
Sure.
Okay, and then Joe, brief comments because we're getting close to time.
Yeah, very brief. In response to what Amy suggested and Zach's response to that, it seems like this bullet has 2 points. One is we recommend that you follow MODIS's recruitment plan and use that as a model for future recruitments. It seems like it's 2 separate points and we want to recommend both.
Thank you, Joe. I had to step away. And so we see here that we have some additions to grammatical changes, maybe talking about following through with MODIS, with cost, and then also being mindful about the community feedback. I'm going to send it back to Zach to see if there's like a way that he wants to frame it to make these changes.
I guess I don't want to speak out of turn with the rest of the work group, but I would say I would accept the amendment that I think Joe is trying to clarify Amy's point of maybe parsing out the inclusion of Modus as an example and speaking to it both as let's preserve the work that has been done for this cycle, and also let's use that as a quality example for futures. And then requests from Fred or any others who have some red line suggestions that we can make those amendments offline.
Sounds about right.
Is there any other looking? Terry said that's about right. Juanita, does that sound okay with you as a representative from that work? Okay, I'm seeing your head nod.
Yes, it's fine. The only thing I just want to clarify, I don't think that the recognizing that the recruitment plan is a good example to follow is not for other recruitments, but we're talking about specifically about the recruitment of the city administrator. So I just want to clarify that, but I totally in agreement that it would be great if people can send us their recommendations and that can be added. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm hearing a lot of consensus and trust in those edits. So the letter will change, but the sense and what we've agreed to that to be a following like standard that we want that to be explicit would be better. I'm gonna pause to motion for the motion that we make those changes, that people send that are grammatical and that it is setting the standard for following city administrator recruitments. And I'm gonna pause there so that we can take it to a vote. Pause for a motion. Gonna see hands.
You want a motion? You're asking for a motion. And
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion. And it is basically the letter as amended by the comments tonight. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
So Terry has put forward the motion to vote on the letter as amended by the comments tonight. Sorry. Regarding city administrator recruitment. To city councilors. And then I got a second from Amy. Okay, so the motion is live. I'm gonna pause for a second in case anyone had any further last comments before setting it to a vote.
For 12 seconds.
Juanita?
Yeah, I apologize. I know that we're trying to save time, but I think it's important that we're very clear about what we are approving. And I would like to be a little bit more specific on the motion. For example, I agree with Leah's comment regarding the last two bullets. And I would like to recommend that the one before the last one, ensure the process can be taken out. Because it was clarified by Shoshana. She said that it's already community has been involved in panels and all of that work has been already done. So maybe instead of that is maybe make sure that, and already I think we talk about including leaders from the community as well as from the city to participate in the interview process. In the interview.
I'm sorry, that's really long to put into a written motion.
No,
So
no, I'm not saying that you put everything. I'm saying, I'm just adding that that the bullet before the last one be taken out. That's all.
Okay, so include the deletion of this language that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat.
Yeah.
That's an amendment at that point. Sarah, are you okay with that amendment?
I like that amendment.
Okay, so Terry's good with the amendment. Zach, I see your hand raised.
I I personally don't like the amendment, but because I mean, Shoshana's point is that there's been listening sessions in developing the job description, but what we heard from Modus is that as they get to a pool of candidates, there's going to be listening sessions and interview panels that we want to make sure has community representation. Do we not? And I feel like that needs to be codified. Maybe we say that that's uplifted in the bullet talking about recognizing Modus's recruitment strategy and whatnot. But I fear that if we do not have that explicitly stated, then it ends up being an internal process that has zero community input in the actual refinement of the candidate pool.
Yeah. I accept that, Zach.
Okay, so Juanita, you remove your amendment? Okay, so we're back to the
Yeah.
original. So we're back, sorry. Again, this is practicing that voting that we know what we're doing.
No.
Okay. So now, if there's no further comments that we've figured it out as amended by the comments without the deletion of the second to last point, I will pass it over to Guillermo to do a roll call.
You see your hand up?
Yeah. I did have.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Do I need to rejoin audio?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Due to all the fantastic improvements. I'm just aware of a sensitivity from a prior motion amended, was made changes. I think we're giving the the group that drafted this some editorial discretion, but maybe once one's made the revisions, one could send distribute that via email, just in case someone has surprise or has some objection, give a day for someone to, to say, hey, I got a concern. I'm not, I'm not amending the motion or anything. It's just, if you want to call it a courtesy or just a check.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I think so just to clarify, we would make it amendments as we understood them. We will share that revised document to this group as the full committee to kind of basically review one last time before we approve. And that outside of significant revisions, we would not need to have a second vote.
Correct.
At a future December meeting.
Correct. I'm thinking the approval would be in effect, but if no one has concerns. Good, well expressed, Zach.
Good call out, Bill. I think that's
Clarify, people can only comment on the changes that were made, not to open the whole thing back up.
correct.
Okay, good point.
Okay, so we're gonna roll call the vote for the letter and that it will be amended. We're gonna either approve or deny it. And if the edits are made, the courtesy window of feedback will only be to the amended portions to ensure that they got the amended parts correct. Got it. Fabulous. I'm gonna pass it back over to Guillermo for a roll call.
Awesome. All right, we'll go down the list. We'll start with Leah.
Yes.
Jane.
Yes.
Jose.
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Juliet.
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Brad.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Juanita.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
And Bill.
Yes.
All right, passes.
Thank you, Terry. And sorry, I'm blanking. And Juanita for your amazing work and for answering all of our questions, and Shoshana as well. We're gonna move it over to change management. Thank you. Thank you. Our work plan does define our roles in change management as such and employee engagement as such to review and track employee engagement metrics and feedback, to track the implementation of employee town halls and attendance to town halls through monthly engagement status updates. We did ask staff to focus their presentations on these roles and to keep their presentation no more than 8 minutes, knowing that we had allocated till 7:05 and went a little bit over. And we have with us Jennifer Kang from the transition team to give us some updates. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Fred, for lending your computer screen. So I'm here just to share back an update about the change management plan since the last time I visited. As you remember, Jamie and I on the transition team have been co-leading the work, supporting employees through the transition. And we've been working very closely with several colleagues and departments at the city, including BHR, Bureau of Human Resources and Training, and many others to both create and implement new resources for employees over this past year and a half. So I'd like to share some 4 main highlights. I know that GTAC members have been really carefully focusing on both metrics and ways in which we've been engaging with employees. And so we'd like to report back on these 4 main areas, which are our town halls and office hours, the City Insider employee newsletter, the Transition Ambassadors program, and then change management trainings. So these 4 areas. I'll start with the town hall. Next slide, please. So this table has a lot of information on it, but it's been updated since our last update to include the dates of the town halls, as well as the number of attendees and what topics have occurred. So some of the more recent ones since our last update have been kind of midway through the table is July, September, and October town hall sessions that have occurred. The one in September was really focused on RCV, and so it was one that GTAC members have been very closely familiar with. And then the most recent one has been in October. It's just been one town hall. July was an important timeframe of transitioning the work. We've been working, the transition team has been working very closely with the central communications team in the city administrator's office to I think with all of the town halls this year, but July was when we kind of transitioned it over to them, and their lead and staff have been coordinated the July one and will be moving forward, except for September. We did that one because it was focused on RCE. But there, I think some great things to report are we have exceeded the goal in terms of the number of attendees attending town halls. So the original goal from the community engagement plan was 8,250. So we have over 9,500 attendees at the town halls, and we have 15 town halls completed. So we're on track in terms of reaching that 18 town halls number by March. But they, right from December, January, and March are the future town hall sessions, and they're still being coordinated and planned. Before moving on with the town hall, something in addition to this work that started this year was we started office hours. So you may recall that we got a lot of feedback last year around the town halls being great and sometimes not accessible, or at times in which many staff, especially staff in field offices, or working different shifts that they couldn't attend. And so something we've done since the beginning of this year has been coordinating office hour times in conjunction with these town halls, same topics, but we have been going to staff at different field sites, at water and parks and some other bureaus, either at their staff meetings or sometimes just setting up a table in a place where they might be doing shift changes. And so we've reached several hundred staff through these different events that are not reflected on this table, and we've gotten some helpful feedback from those staff of feeling appreciation around being, staff going to them with the information and just like going to meetings at very early hours of the day as well. So that has been a highlight. So next slide. So these next two slides, I'm actually going to skip through them. They're full updates, and you received the slide deck ahead of time, but we can come back to this if we have time afterwards. So skip the next one. Thank you. So the City Insider. So this is a monthly newsletter that started in January of this year. It is led by the Central Communications team. Its focused audience are city employees, and has been, we've had now 10 editions. Yeah, 10 editions monthly, and they reach over 5,200 employees per month. And so since the beginning of the year to now, we've seen some increases in a couple metrics. One is just the open rate, moving from 11 to 28%, and then the click rate. So that's when people are clicking on different stories, opening and reading. So 3 to 10%. So obviously still room for improvement, but we see that it's going in the right direction in terms of higher percentages of both open and click rate, and just understanding and kind of knowing it as a resource. And this is will continue to improve in the upcoming year as well. The next slide, please. Yeah. So our next program I'd like to share about is the Transition Ambassadors. This is a program that's led out of the Bureau of Human Resources through the People and Culture team. This is a new program which we recruited employees and peers within different service areas and bureaus across the organization to serve as ambassadors, kind of peer support folks to their colleagues. And this started in July, and where they had their kickoff event, and then they've been receiving a whole series of different trainings so that they have the full information around all the charter transition changes. They've also received training around change management, mental health, first aid, ranked choice voting, and other leadership skills and topics. And so they have been responding to various number of questions. I think last month it was at 23 questions. Those questions are in a shared spreadsheet that then within 24 to 72 hours, there's the program manager helps to coordinate response. So whether that's directing it to the city leadership team or the transition team or other staff to be able to respond to. Next slide. Then the change management trainings are new sessions that have been offered starting this spring. So there's 3 new, they're no longer new. They started new in spring, 3 new consultants focusing on change management. So we've had 20 training sessions held from April to October with almost 500 participants. And the focus of these trainings have been managers and supervisors, but they've also been open and available to other employees who have interest in attending. We have 8 more trainings planned through the end of the year, and there's currently more than 100 individuals already registered. So we know that there'll be additional sessions at the beginning of next year. And this work is being led by the training team out of BHR. This, one slide. Yeah, just a couple of the notes and of feedback from participants in the training. One person said the training was fantastic. They would love to see the training adapted and integrated into new employee onboarding. And another had just emphasized it was a pertinent topic in training, and they're trying to keep that in top of their mind amidst the daily work. And one of their takeaways was being able to think of big picture things in the midst of the day-to-day work. So just some of their feedback and perspectives. With that, love to take any questions, or if there are areas you were more interested in hearing more about, glad to share.
Jennifer, I'm gonna give a brief pause. That hand's been raised, but I will say that Jane did say great to go out to staffing in their fields. Good going.
Yeah.
Pausing. And then I'll pass it to Bill.
Thank you, Destiny. And Jennifer, thank you. As I'm looking through the slides, it led me to a question. Yesterday, Terry and I gave a presentation to the citywide City Equitable Engagement Group.
Yes.
Coordinated by Sandra Francois. So is there an interaction with that group, or what is the interaction, if there is one?
With the change management efforts, you mean?
Yeah, yes.
We have not, I'm trying to think of the transition team has definitely worked and partnered with the equitable engagement group through the citywide practices project. Both the engagement practice and equity practice projects. In relation to the change management efforts, some of those individuals we did share at that meeting the Transition Ambassadors Program before it launched, and did invite people in that group to either apply or share it in their networks with other employees. But I think that those have been the main kind of touch points, but it's a great group, and I think it's a good existing group and network to keep in mind for sure.
Good to have more.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
I will pass it to Julia.
Thanks, Destiny. So Jennifer, I'm sorry if you said this before, but how many employees are there in the whole city?
There's more than 7,000.
And were all of their attendance voluntary, or was some of it required?
Looking at the various efforts, they were voluntary.
Thanks.
I will pass it to Fred.
Yes, thank you so much. Change management is something that we've been asked to not consider or look at as a advisory committee. On the other hand, it's rather intriguing because it deals with trying to focus the entire bureaucracy into a unified government, unsiloed, that works together and collaborates well. And it's something that we've all been pushing for, from voting for the charter change to the current moment. At our last meeting, I think we requested that as a citizen advisory committee, that we be able to see the city employee newsletter, newsletter. And I don't think that's been done for us. And it would be informative, I think, so that we can track. I mean, I think all of us know Portland city employees, and it'd be useful as we progress to our final report and wrapping this up, looking at what was accomplished, to see how the employees were communicated with that way. I'm also interested, intrigued, and you may tell me it's none of my business. What is the content of the change management training per se? You know, I know that there's a consultant, the Cole method or something of, you know, whatever. Shush, I'm gonna hit
Well, yeah, those are great points. So I'll start with the latter one first. So the consultants, there are 3 consultants that have been conducting the sessions, and they've each created handouts and portions that are kind of part of our change management toolkit. So I'll be sure to kind of send you that link, or at least those PDFs, because that does help to summarize the different things that they're highlighting in their training. And then related to the City Insider, definitely we can share that. I feel like Julia had mentioned that and has been forwarding them, but we'll be sure to get them sent to, has it not been? Okay. Yeah, so it is definitely something we can share and forward. They're typically published the last Thursday of the month. So we can forward and share those as they get sent out. The central communications team is working on a configuration, kind of refresh of the newsletter so that it's going to be coming out more frequently. And there's going to be two starting probably in early next year. One that's focused to community partners at community, and then one that is city employee focused. And I think both of them will be ones that you can get more.
Thank you. I captured that. I do want to, we're close to time and I do want to send it to Jose.
I just have a very quick question.
Yeah.
I saw the attendance numbers. Are you also keeping track of attendance to see who's showing up multiple times and who's never showing up?
That is a great question that I can follow up with my teammates on. It is tracked through Zoom, I believe. So to the extent to which we can pull that data, I will follow up with you on that. Sure.
You, and then you do, Shoshana.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, you know, I think that, remember that the curriculum, the events are very topical. So I think we get people who are interested in the topic rather than seeing it as like a curriculum.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I think I'm more concerned if there's like a huge group that's never been to anything.
There is, I think we can assume that there is a huge group of employees that haven't been to anything. Yes, I mean, considering that our attendance is, you know, in the, you know, very high hundreds to 1,000, you know, and our employees are, we've got 7,000. I don't know if we actually are tracking the views of the replay, you know, so we may catch some of them, but I think we should assume that this is not the only way that our employees are getting this information. And we're hoping that it's paired with the leadership team's leadership of their service areas and sharing that information down. And hopefully managers are also sharing it. So a manager may attend and share the information.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna pass it over to Jane.
Thank you so much. Great presentation, and not surprising that there's a large percentage of people who appear not to have engaged, because when you do change, there's a whole bunch of people who kind of like put their heads in the sand and just pretend it's not going to happen. So, and if you've read Who Moved the Cheese, which is a really fabulous book, this is going to continue because most people are just plodding along as is until the real change happens, which will be in January. So my question is, will there be more funds and more opportunity to help people when the spaghetti hits the wall and this all really, really changes? Is there some funds left over for ongoing help and training? Thank you so much for your work.
Yeah, I think that that's a good question. I do want to share that the leadership team did meet with the mayor-elect, I think on Tuesday. Change management and focus on employees is in their wheelhouse, as you know, they come in as leadership in from a corporation, and they, you know, definitely understand change management and spoke the language of what, Six Sigma Six, what is it? Sorry, in all of their change management fluencies. So I think that we can expect a focus on employees. So your question, Jane, about funds available, we have funds in this fiscal year to continue to support employees through change. And we've allocated many of those resources in the ways that we think will continue this work, the trainings that will be available. But could we be doing more? Absolutely. Will we reach every employee? Probably not. Those ones that have put their heads down, we might not reach. And also, for many employees, their work continues. And they are still delivering safe roads, great sewers, clean water to Portlanders every day, regardless of who their manager is, right? And so I think we just kind of have to remember that we have a continuum of employees, some who are experiencing a great level of change. Our team is one among them. But there are other employees who just like the day-to-day, I'm still developing the Division Zero plan. I'm still, working to ensure that all of our streetlights are working or that we're delivering great services in our parks. So thinking about it that way, we are trying to provide resources for the employees that are experiencing the most change and support for leadership to lead through change. Those are our focuses. And we absolutely would support more resources to change management, but we expect that it's going to be a very tight fiscal year.
Shoshana, we are at time. And Jennifer, there are questions in the chat. If you could answer them, as we move into the second part. Thank you so much for giving us the change management. It was also for every question. It was really great to hear that. So I will then now pass it off to Bill.
Yes, thank you again, Jennifer and Shoshana, for all your additions here. Let's talk about change management or priority issues, pardon me. Change management. Before we get to the priority issues, let me say in our prior discussions that we're planning activities after the elections, for discussions and meetings with the newly elected officials. And in order to do this, we want to benefit from your personal relationships with some of the newly elected individuals. And we have a draft email or message one can use to contact them in order to garner the ability to give a presentation, at the meeting. So we have this template, but and we encourage you to use it, and we can put the link in the chat or make it available via email. But please, we won't send emails until after December 2, when the elections are certified. Yeah, we'll switch to that. I heard a possible question on that.
Yeah, sorry. Did you say that we're meant to send individual emails to?
I think that's something we encouraged it, but
Like not as GTAC, but as like myself.
yeah, I think, I mean, if you've been working with a particular candidate, that's how I'm understanding. We want to coordinate.
Yeah, that seems like dampening our message instead of concentrating our message. If everybody is meeting individually and also is a member of GTAC and it's all like.
Yeah. Good point. No, at least I was not envisioning we'd all have individual meetings. It's more of a context. Let's think that out. What I'm thinking is we want to benefit from, for example, your contact, but your contacts, but we want it to be coordinated. So maybe if we send emails, it's on behalf of GTAC.
We should let you all know we have contact.
So it's kind of like, when we did our final recommendation, like I sent it out, like people signed up to do the outreach, so I sent it out to all the candidates that we had listed their email as a member of GTAC with like the template of information that we're agreeing to. So that's also the same thing of like a lot of people here have close relationships or know of the candidates who will then be council members and or mayor. And so it's hard to get everybody to talk about all of the onboarding things in 15 minutes. So we really want to have those personal connections, which is valuable, to send them our priorities and have like that one-on-one discussion at length if they have questions, kind of utilize that on behalf of GTAC with the template and agreement. So that's how we did also, again, the final recommendation letter and outreach is we agreed to it and we sent it based on the template who signed up. And the emails, it would be the same, but with the new council and the new mayor.
I think we're thinking, you know, a candidate or an official that knows you, it's an email from you on behalf of GTAC, that's going to carry more weight than if someone says that, you know, they don't know.
I just want to say, at this point, at 2 years on of being the only citizens engagement committee of this transition, if the new council is not taking our emails, that's a serious issue. It seriously reflects on the new council. And I just feel like that's important to say, is that that would be absurd, and we should act like it's absurd if they are not taking our contact at this point. We're the only citizens engagement body. We've done the most outreach of any other group. It would be absurd for them not to give us a little bit of time of day. Yeah.
Very good comment. We'll work on that coordination. Now, for the 25 minutes that we have here, this is where we want to go around to each individual and invite your comments as to how we should frame or prioritize the recommendations that we will make during the city onboarding process. Now, we have the excellent letter with recommendations, but I could try to use the word elevator speech, but if we have a 15-minute presentation where we're submitting a final report, what should we highlight? And our idea for this next 25 minutes is that if we can go around the room and everyone can have 2 minutes to just express what you think are issues that are important for priority. Yes.
Quick comment, we go to that on the letter and Amy's comment. I do want people to also make sure you know if you have relationships with their staff. Can be even maybe more valuable than with the candidates themselves. Because I know like at least 6 or 7 campaign managers, but not the candidates themselves. So if you know people that are on their staff, that might be a good way to get that in front of them.
Excellent observation. Guillermo, you had a raised hand too, I noticed. Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, pardon me. Okay. Now, with our 2 minutes, maybe we can just start going around. Maybe Fred, we can start with you. And
2 years of transition, or what our priorities are for the new council on their onboarding.
Oh, yeah, I should say Destiny is timekeeping.
Well, I mean, which are we on?
Which slide is it?
Oh, on priority issues.
There we go. Thank you.
This is again for the next.
You start over. Thank you. I think that Amy brought up a really good point about public engagement and involve the community as they come on board and look seriously at our recommendations, not just in the budget process, which is critical. And I think the budget office is looking at ways to incorporate some of those. But to me, that's the most vital aspect of it. I remember when there was concern about what our roles were at the beginning of our term. And someone said to me, I think through Nextdoor or something, that just like all advisory committees the city appoints, they appoint them, then they don't listen to. And so that's where I think we have an effective role to play in communicating to the new council how critical that role is, not just for them and the council, but for the new administration.
Thank you, Fred. Zach?
I'll be succinct in saying that I feel like the priority issue is that they need to have committees. That's where I will stop.
Okay, we have some good recommendations on committees. Yeah. Julie?
Yeah, it's a challenge to be concise about this, but I guess I would point out something we haven't talked about exactly is that there's going to be a different kind of environment and manner of working now that we are going to have geographic representation. And it's going to be much more important to work with neighborhoods for the 3 counselors in each district to figure out how they can be the most productive and optimize their time with their minimal staff. So I guess I'm just thinking about they're going to be much closer to the ground than the council has been in the past and need to be thinking about that new paradigm and what does that mean?
Thank you. Barry?
It's 2 minutes, right?
You have 2.
Okay. On the open issues, I think, and I think we still have room to make recommendations on some things. Advisory bodies in general seems to be an open issue on how the city moves forward with them. The codes, they're going through the council now, but I think everyone acknowledges that it is just a quick take, trying to do the best they can, and I've been doing the best I can to follow those codes. And it's clear that much more work needs to be done on cleaning up the codes. So I think that's going to be an open issue into the future. I will go just ditto with what Juliet just said about district representation. I think the way counselors work in districts is going to be very important to get right from the start. And then as priorities, I'll agree that committees is going to be a priority, both just getting their jurisdiction right, getting their constitutions right, and then how they work procedurally with the council, which is all up in the air because the council rules are still an open issue, at least at this point. And I think that's going to take work into January, apparently. And then finally, staffing. You know, the current council punted on staffing, and new council is going to have to deal with their own staff. So that's what I see. How did I do time?
5 seconds.
Just so we're able to, Destiny and I weren't able to start dancing. Amy.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that I have been out on the campaign trail and was primarily campaigning in D2 and D4. And so I heard a lot of the way the candidates were talking about what they would do when they got into office. And it was very clear to me that something that we should impart as GTAC on these people is how much the city of Portland's current community relationships are extremely damaged and fraught, and that is something that needs to be institutionally built into the way the city operates moving forward, and that they have the power to do that, and they have the power to set that up and build those relationships and mandate that across the city. And I don't think that's something that they currently know. Second is committees, imparting on them what we've learned from other cities and also kind of how much work has been done on these things. Though I think we shouldn't spend too much time on that because really we have no power to influence that. I really do think where our leverage here is that we have seen over 2 years the way that the city's relationships play out in the public in Portland, and the way that those relationships aren't institutionalized across different departments, and that causes real harm out in the community. So I think that's probably the most important thing that we should impart on people. And then also kind of priming people for challenges they're gonna face. I think that a lot of these people kind of think they're walking into, there's a good amount of people on the council that really understand how the government works, that they're walking into sort of unformed offices, but just kind of putting on people's radar, the staff will be figured out, just kind of what people are walking into, and then some solutions to that, like other ways you can work around that, or offering kind of our thoughts on how they could.
Thank you, Amy. And I'll mention for those online, Juanita, Jane, I'm still going to go around the table, but I will then call, begin with you, Juanita, and then go to Jane. First, please.
I'll look at the 2 minutes too, because I went through the whole list and just thought pragmatically, how would I go about recommending? Because I think we want to emphasize that all of the things we put together are really important, but I think there's probably a way to prioritize going through them. So I thought I put it into 4 different sections. I think it's important to start with priority setting, structure, general communications, and community engagement. I think the priority setting is really important to start with. I like the idea of developing a roadmap of the short list of council priorities. I think that's a great way for them to do team building, is to surface what their values and their priorities are by putting that short list together. And I think it's really important that they put together the strategic planning process so that both the community and the city council knows where we're going with all of this. Second, I think focusing on structure. So I think staffing the city council would be the first thing they need as extra support. Looking at the committee structure and procedures and the composition of committees is really important to do first. And then creating the service area budget advisory committees. To me, those are structurally a good thing to go about doing first. General communications, I thought it's really important that we keep the community engagement alive by making sure that we've got streamlined communications. So having the regular communication citywide, establishing district communication, and then creating the budget communication. There's a lot of great suggestions around budget, but at first, if we can at least do the communication to community, to me, that seems like a priority. And then again, keeping the community engagement alive with, to me, the first thing would be to make sure the city council website is easy to get on and look for things. The other ideas are really good. This one to me seems like the priority. And then hosting in-district budget town halls, another way to engage the community.
Thank you, Lauren. Jose?
Yeah, a lot of good things said. I think the important thing to me, after I've been with candidates a lot, and you hear a lot of conversation about what they want to do for the city, the issues with the city, and the things they want to do. But for me, it's really to impress upon them just how important the processes they build are going to be. Those are going to be the longest lasting impacts. Unfortunately, the way this council sets up many things, it's going to be how they're going to do them for a very long time. History shows us they set up and then there's minor tweaks. They're not going to get overhauled for a long time. So we want to, I know it's not the fun thing to talk about, but setting up committees correctly, how they do different processes, how the president works, and what part, like those things are going to be so important for the future of Portland. But it's not the fun thing to talk about when you're in campaign trail. So they might want to go into it with guns blazing, trying to fix all these problems they said they were going to fix. But I think the uphill battle is going to be telling them you need to spend time on setting up all the systems so that you can continue to work on these problems into the future. And for me, I think I agree with all the things everyone said, but it boils down to that, because if they don't get that correct, then it's gonna cause roadblocks every time they try to do anything. And I think that including the community and building it into all those processes is such a huge part of that. So that's the main thing I want to see.
Thank you, Jose. I will now move to individuals that are online. And Juanita, please, we welcome your comments.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, I think there's a, to me, the after this experience of working with this committee, in looking at what would be the priorities for the new council and then our role as advisory and what we need to make more recommendations. We need to expand our recommendations. But I think that we need to address it specifically in first place. The strategic planning process is the first one. They need to know how they're going to be, not just for the first year, at least for the first 4 years, to do effective strategic planning. Also, the area of fiscal and financial areas. I think that we talk a lot about the budget, but until we don't talk about the structure of the fiscal and financial departments, that will never be resolved. So to me, focusing on the recommendations made by the report that we read, and I can't remember right now the name of the company or the organization that made the audit or the review of both the financial and the fiscal departments and the staffing. Those are very critical issues that need to be put in the front of the council, because that is what there is not a resolve them in the first year or 2 years, but it's important that as part of the strategic planning they start talking about those issues and how they're going to be addressed. The third thing is community engagement. Community engagement, the way we've been looking at it and we're making our recommendations, permeates throughout the whole organizational structure of the city and impacts almost every aspect of the functioning of the city, and it should be that way. So therefore, I think that the things that part of our recommendation should include the emphasis that needs to be placed on the organizational structure about that function, how the community engagement is going to be a structure and function. And the part of that will be also what type of policies the council needs to start thinking about developing to provide the both. Yes.
The 2-minute chime is
done.
up.
Okay, well, that's it. That I will stop there.
Okay, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jane, and after you, I will ask Joe. But Jane, we welcome your comments. And Jane, you want
There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, like many have said, I would my number one would be to develop the strategic plan. What we know about people who have no bosses, these people don't have a manager other than the community, is that folks want to go and work on the things that they want to work on whatever their special interest is. And so I think that the first thing is to set the goalposts, to get people thinking up bigger. Only 1 in 88 people have the planning gene. So we're going to make the assumption that this group of people are not really planners. So the strategic plan must be set. And then I think that once you've got the plan, it's very easy to see where the work goes. And to do that, it's our committee recommendation. So I think if we say the work will get better done if it's done in a committee format, that they will see that once the strategic plan is done. I'm putting my money on the community outreach hire to develop the framework to de-silo the community plan. But I think that what a city councillor might want to do, and we could set them off doing it, is to develop their own district-based outreach plan. Because they are, if you're working for a District 4, you're working for me, and I'd like to hear from you. So let's get this plan developed pretty quickly so that we can hear what's going on. And I think with those 3 things, it's a good way to sort of get the wheels turning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane. And Joe, look forward to your comments, and then Leah, then you'll be next.
Yeah, so I want to say I'm disappointed that we decided not to schedule a onboarding session of our own so that we could get their undivided attention. I think that it's going to be critical to meet with them individually. I don't have anything to add to the long list of priorities we've talked about, but I believe that every one of those individual meetings ought to be structured carefully as a conversation with the council member. I do want to say a few words about our 15 minutes and on that first day. They're going to have a parade of people, and we're not going to be able to say anything substantive whatsoever. I think we should point out that in that parade, we're the only ones that represent the community, that we are the primary, it says right on our website, we're the primary community engagement body for the transition, that we have put a lot of work into our recommendations and gotten a lot of community input into our recommendations. And when we meet with them, we hope they take those recommendations very seriously.
Joe, thank you. Leah.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you everyone for sharing. I'll second everything everyone said. As someone who is a process and planning nerd, I will especially second that being important underpinnings to start off with. But the one that I want to draw attention to is the main question that I've heard from community as we get out to engage and talk about this new form of government. And the main question seems to be, what are these people going to do? And so I think a great first activity for the group to do together is to come up with a wonderful jargon-free explanation of what the city council does and what it means to have district-specific representation and how individual Portlanders can engage with their new district-specific council representatives. Because I think we've had a lot of good language around what the government transition is going to look like, but people are still looking for something really concrete to grab onto. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And back in our room, Destiny, if you welcome your comments. And Destiny, I want you to know, is timing herself.
Thank you. I think for me, the most important, which we touched on, and I think a lot of has been engagement, and that means setting up shop, like spending the time to talk about our committee structure, how people are going to engage with that, what they're going to tackle, which means you have to be able to like communicate and engage in that. Like Leah said, what does district-based representation mean and what city-based strategic planning? Like that means a lot of time planning how we're going to communicate as a city. I've said it multiple times. This is a first impression of what we hope to see as a lasting, better, effective government. So again, I think setting up shop, getting out of campaign mind, you know, you have time when you have to re-campaign, but putting in those structures for public engagement, community engagement, to do strategic planning, to capture those things, to set up committees. And so I think that's the biggest thing, and that we've done research. And so please reach back out and we will be emailing your, you know, campaign managers, things like that. And like to be a resource, reiterating that because we only have 15 minutes. So trying to encourage them as a community, take your time. We don't expect you to solve the city problem by tomorrow.
Thank you, Destiny. Just to add a couple of comments, and these are all such great ideas and suggestions. I also support the idea of setting out process and structure at the beginning. Sets a precedent. I remember reading several years ago a book called Brothers about those founding or starting the U.S. A lot of initial decisions to make. Very impressive that it sets precedent, can always be changed, but really, or as I'd also emphasize, use the word camaraderie, just given the polarization that's been in this country. You know, again, picking up on Leah's expression of lucid, how to or what to do next, building up cooperation among the council and between the council, you know, and the mayor, between the legislative and the executive branches. This particular issue or matter, I think budget is a major concern. That's a concern that we've heard some comments from, you know, city employees as to what the future is. But I would also say prioritization comes first, and that's a comment I give, remembering that Terry made talk to the equitable engagement group. So thank you everyone for your comments. Guillermo's been taking good notes. We got it recorded. But this is really going to help those of us who are drafting our final report. So thank you. Another important subject. To do a testing. Turn it over to you for reflections 2 years into our transition.
Thank you, Bill. And I do want to say, with all the tech problems and all that round robin in those 2 minutes, like we ended that on time. So I'm gracious for all of you getting your thoughts in. Again, we weren't arguing why our recommendations are great. This is just going to help our presentation within those 15 minutes. We wanted to get it to see what we can nail down with what the committee members can brought. So now to the next slide, please, Shoshana. On reflections 2 years into the transition. So we have periodically assessed ourselves as a committee, and in November, started in November of 2023 and May 2024, and now in November 2024. We do these to include in our final reports these assessments. 1 year ago, members did express gratitude for the efforts and cooperations from other GTAC members. And the leadership of the committee co-chairs and the work that the transition team has done. We also expressed excitement for the upcoming engagement and presentation opportunities and the work of the 2 subcommittees. When we did another assessment, we did acknowledge the frustration that was expressed regarding how challenging the late start of the committee was, and then also that it made those few months of our work a little bit challenging. We did hear that concerns were raised regarding how to change the culture in the city's organization, particularly around increased community participation, how to leave the narratives regarding this work in the community rather than being reactive, and the next council possibly not being given all the tools they might need in order. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I see the chat. Can you hear me? Leah? Oh, okay, Leah's shaking her head. Okay, sorry. Oh, we did. Yeah, Leah can hear me. Sorry. And also our concerns that the next council might not have all the tools they need in order to succeed in this new form of government. 6 months ago, members identified what's working with the GTAC, our community engagement efforts, and then our community education. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot tonight. The staff support, the rapport between members, and the process of writing recommendations to current city leaders. So a moment of reflection there. We also have identified for members a set of challenges, including lack of authority and impact, mission creep, members running at their pace, some burnout, frustration with meeting outcomes, role confusion, and inefficient communications. So to address those challenges, members identified new practices trying to move forward, including focusing our work on where we believe we can have the most impact as part of our working plan. And then identifying our priorities to continue to advise and support the transition team. And then until the November election, we prioritized community education and engagement efforts. And now post-election, we are going to prioritize those education and advocacy for our recommendations, and also, change those presentations to talk about what next, right? And also get feedback. So we now have time for each member to share any reflections they may have. That's, part of the part where are you currently right now. Every member has up to about 1.5 minutes. And again, Bill will be taking time. And so this is just kind of to see where you're at. And I will start it actually with that.
Okay, I'll start.
I'll start it.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I think I'm generally tired. I mean, I think we've been doing this work and kind of nose to the grindstone, and we did a lot of heavy lifting and getting recommendations written. I would say, my biggest, the biggest challenge that I've had being on this committee is the challenge of writing as a group of 15 of us and making sure that everybody's voice is represented and making sure that everybody gets an opportunity to weigh in. And there's some challenges in doing that, like whether it's sufficient to have the conversation here in a public setting, refining a recommendation when there's a lot of ideas being passed. We're like, okay, well, we kind of got the nuts and bolts. We're going to go back, we're going to write it. And there's challenges in that process. And I just want to acknowledge, I appreciate Bill, like on the fly today, we're like, let's maybe figure out another way of strategizing so that people can be, remain engaged and be able to have an opportunity for input as we approach that final polished version of our recommendations. But just very appreciative of everybody's commitment to this work. It's pretty inspiring to see as we marched on into like November, like many of us being involved in campaigns or like other ways in the community was really cool to see. And just honored to be a part of this group.
Right, next.
It's gonna go Julia, and then we're gonna switch over to our hybrid folks, Leah, then Joe, then Juanita.
So this is any reflections at all?
Yes.
Okay, I have a few. So I think at the beginning of this, part of charter reform was to break down silos. And the result of that was supposed to be more effective governing, better constituent services, and I assume saving money. So I don't think we've talked about that much lately, but I don't want to lose sight of that. And I'm really interested to see where that goes and if we ever see any analysis of the outcome of breaking down those silos and eliminating some of the redundancies and contradictions within that structure. There are three things I noted that I don't think we've talked about. One is Prosper Portland. It often is treated as a separate entity because it used to have its own budget, but it's under the city now and it's largely misunderstood, often misunderstood, and it's going through a leadership change. That's one thing. Another is the HR department. I've had a number of interactions with them over the years, and I never understand how they do what they do or why they do it, or how some of it is even legal. And the third thing is something I brought up at our second meeting, which is that we are one of the few cities on the West Coast and, elsewhere that have no gender equity or gender justice policy or program. And a week ago, it got a whole lot more important that we have that. I have examples I brought with me. You see it in Eugene, New York, Seattle, San Francisco. Why not Portland? And I really wish that that could come out of this transition, but it didn't. So thank you. There we go.
Thank you, Julia. And now I'm gonna pass it over to our awesome members online, Leah.
Yeah, thank you. I'll start off by seconding Zach and saying I'm feeling tired at this point. I think I haven't been as engaged as I wanted to be over the past 6 months because of other things related to all of this. But reflecting on this group in general, I've really appreciated getting to work with you all, getting to learn about the inner workings of the city. But I think I've continued to feel some frustration throughout of not understanding who our audience is or what, if any, power this committee has. I think I assume nothing but the best of intentions with forming this committee, and I'm so grateful for the transition staff with the support that they've given us and all the great work that they're doing. But I think in a lot of ways there wasn't a strong call for this committee, and it's been a challenge to figure out how to best use like the brain trust within this room. I'm actually sitting in a room alone, but the room we're all theoretically in together. So it's been a great experience in a lot of ways, but I think I would, not be being honest if I didn't provide the feedback that sometimes the work that we're doing can feel futile. We're working so hard, but don't ultimately know who's listening. Thank you.
Joe?
I'm going to talk really fast for a minute and a half. I'm disappointed in our ineffectiveness as a committee and my own ineffectiveness as a committee member. The crux of the problem was that we were an advisory committee, but nobody wanted our advice. Every time we made recommendations to city council, they either rejected them or told us they wished they could take them, but just couldn't for some reason above our pay grade. Transition staff had a long way to go and a short time to get there, and we were mostly a speed bump to them. I regret that we, and I personally, never found a way to show them that we could be a valuable partner rather than a noisy distraction. Very little of our hard work is reflected in the products of their hard work. We never had a chance to spread our wings and fly. We were told not to communicate with transition staff, and we were warned not to talk with one another except within the constraints of time-limited public meetings where real dialogue was impossible. I'm especially disappointed in the community engagement element of our charge. We worked our hearts out making presentations and trying to forge relationships, but like the districting and salary commissions before us, we were on our own. Our staff, Julia, June, and Guillermo in particular, worked hard to support us, but we did not have a foundation of community partnerships to build on. As it has been in so many other city efforts, community engagement was a box to check rather than a partnership to celebrate. I appreciate the work of each and every one of my colleagues on this committee and our dedicated committee staff. We worked hard and in good faith in spite of the barriers we encountered. That was a minute and a half, and the fact that we each had 1.5 minutes to reflect on 1.5 years of work is a perfect reflection of my feelings about my experience as a member of this committee.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to pass it to Juanita.
Thank you, Destiny. First of all, I want to thank everybody because I have found this an incredible experience working with the team, with the full committee. I have learned a lot. I'm just very grateful to be part of this team. It's been a wonderful experience. On the other hand, I also have some frustration, and I will echo what Joe was just expressed. And one of the examples I just was putting on the chat, one of the examples that is part of that frustration is the decision made to give us 15 minutes to talk about the work that was accomplished in 1.5 years. And I don't know who made that decision. We were told that we only have 15 minutes. So, that's the part of that. It really frustrates me because it's very disrespectful. I feel that this is disrespectful to limit our communication with the new council, because if anything positive can come out of the work that this group has done is to be able to communicate with the new council and to communicate to them the vision that we have and the direction that we are hoping that they will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. I'm going to pass it back to Terry, and then it'll be Amy, and then back to Jane, and then Lori. You want Terry?
I think Joe captured quite a bit of what I'm feeling, and I appreciate his comments. And I'm going to take a different approach in that I think our shrinking scope of jurisdiction, if you will, from the very beginning was sort of a message to us that kept getting compounded and compounded as the transition went further. For example, the codes. The codes are being jammed through the council right now as fast as they can, with literally a day to look at hundreds of pages of PDFs. Early on, we were going to be involved in that code effort. That fell by the wayside as the transition got jammed itself. Similarly, the council rules. There was a time this summer when we were going to see council rules in September. We're not going to see them. We're not going to see them until they're on the table at the onboarding session or something. If then, I don't even know if that's going to be. But as the transition got crunched, we were the first thing off the truck. And I think there's that. And I also think that we were used as engagement washing for the transition itself. We were out in the community. We were taking the comments. We were listening to people. We were writing the documents and reports that then just didn't get listened to. So I feel like little bit taken advantage of. So
Your time to.
I knew I was thinking 2 minutes and I have 30 seconds to go. No, I'll save it for later.
Now back to Amy. Yeah, well, I mostly reflect the ideas of Terry, Joe, and Leah. I'm incredibly grateful to have been part of this transition effort and to have met everybody on the committee. And I also deeply regret that our efforts never felt like they quite landed. The one that's most dear to my heart, but I think is an example of these things like code, like many other things, is the onboarding process. What we diligently asked to be involved in, we asked to see what the manual would look like. We asked to meet monthly, and those monthly meetings didn't have every single effort to lay out explicitly what partnership would look like. And I feel extremely proud of the effort of the committee and also the subcommittee that worked on that stuff. And I feel really sad that we don't have a stamp for real impact in the way that things are playing out now. Especially having been out there in the community representing the transition, having had so little impact on the other side. I will say that I end this very hopeful about the new council. It's half women, which is very exciting. It's geographic diversity, economic diversity, ideological diversity in a way that is an absolute sell given the national conversation. And so despite feeling some type of way about spending 2 years to do not, I don't know, I feel really grateful, and I feel like that, as I think Dan Ryan said, or that we are the brain trust of we are part of the brain trust of the transition. And I think that there's going to be ways that we don't even know yet that that's going to come back. I hope that that's the case. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. I'm passing it back to Jane and then Lori. Jane.
Thank you. When we did our second reflection, I was really tired and I was really fed up and I felt like we were flailing around. But I feel great today. And part of the reason, I think, is because of the fabulous work that subcommittees have done, and particularly in that whole idea that we're going to leave documents behind, really well-written, smart documents. And I want to thank everybody who worked so hard on that, because it is incredible work. The other part of the thing that I had to remind myself when we did that second one, when I was really tired, was that we are an advisory committee. I worked in community outreach for a large part of my career, and I know the limitations of advisory committees. So I gave myself a stern talking to, and I said I was going to focus on the people on the committee who I really admire and love and enjoy. And I'm going to celebrate the fabulous people from the city and the county that we met who are so talented. Because at the end of the day, they're going to continue to do their work. And you have to admit that most of them are absolutely brilliant and smart and hardworking and have worked so long. And then the other talk I gave to myself was this community outreach thing that we were then asked to do. We were really asked to do heavy lifting of talking to people. For most of my community outreach life, I went to neighborhood associations and I was so fed up of that. So that's when I asked if I could go to schools. And I gave 23 presentations in 7 schools, and I reached almost 800 students, and I had the best time because I could control that and it made me happy and I thought it was worthwhile. I just propose that everybody should be tired because we've done really great work. I don't know why I'm not. But I do advocate that we do not meet in December for a boring meeting, that we go out and drink and eat. and have an opportunity. You know, we took August off. Let's take December off. Let's go and have a little bit of a party, because I think the celebration is in this brain tryst. And you know, I know I'm objectionable because I am so optimistic, but it's always worked for me. And I continue to believe that what we leave behind will be appreciated and enjoyed. And I just want to thank you all
James,
for 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid, yeah, the minute and a half has passed, but we're going to talk more later.
Thank you,
So
Kate.
good. Thank you.
For your positivity, and then
Yes.
sorry, I'm trying to my computer back to
Sorry. Sorry. I'm going to repeat what a few people have said, because I think it's worth repeating. But when I think back on the 2 years, I can't believe the enormity of this transition and what's been done. And so that is my biggest reflection on it all. I'm grateful to have been part of this dedicated and talented group that clearly cares about their community and seeing this transition be implemented as smoothly and effectively as possible. I am inspired by really being a part of this group. I'm so grateful for the committee leadership and Julia for continuing to improve our meeting processes. I think we've just gotten more and more effective and efficient when I think about when we started to where we are now. I personally I've really appreciated the opportunity to learn. I've learned so much about the inner workings of the city, and I know I've only gotten this much. And I love doing the community engagement. I really appreciated the opportunity to engage with so many people that were so passionate about what's happening in this city. I didn't know that existed. And I reflect the same disappointment around having not been on a community advisory committee before. I don't feel like I'm generally disappointed in the level of impact that we've actually had, the outcomes of the city's work, whether it's not visible to me or it actually didn't happen. I just feel generally disappointed in the amount of work.
I'm glad Lori repeated some stuff. I'm not going to. A lot of the things that I feel have been said. Everyone knows I've had frustrations and I have hope for the coming months. I will say that I will go in a different direction. I feel like GTAC has taught me how to be a better citizen, how to better engage with my community. Being part of this committee has taught me what I want to see in a good elected official. It has taught me a lot of things that I never would have learned otherwise, I don't think, in a much more efficient way with different viewpoints. I think I've learned a lot about myself and my community doing this process, that it was worth every frustration, every tired night, everything that I've gone through. And being an elected official myself, being just a school board member, it really has taught me how I should engage with the people in my community and how to be a better person and a better representative. So I would tell anyone to be part of these kinds of citizen bodies, because you learn so much that it almost feels selfish. You do so much for others, but you get so much out of it that it's really, really worth it. And I hope we all keep that in mind when we're tired, because I've also been less engaged, but I've never been more engaged with campaigns and city government, because I really had something that made me want to have this succeed. So I appreciate this for that.
Brad.
Okay, very briefly. I think I have less than a minute. I'm a little tired too. I mean, it was sort of burnout, getting through all the voter outreach. I didn't feel like we had materials at the beginning. We were sent out, we had a plan, we had a committee with communications outreach plan, but we didn't have supporting materials. We didn't have even a program to present. And so we were just out kind of talking off because we were fresh to this as well. And so, but it came around. Staff was great at bringing us materials, but then we short of materials. So they changed materials and not tell us this we're scheduled for another presentation. And then when we started co-presenting with the county elections office, I mean, Juanita and I were very frustrated with one event because the county, we were at the butt end of this table with the county, and we had no room for our materials. All we had was stuff about ranked choice voting. The county folks didn't talk about ranked choice voting with the few people that came to Juanita, and I finally just took our materials and went out into the audience and had one-on-one conversations with people in breaks in the concert that was happening. And that was far more productive to me. And people were anxious to know, but they didn't know that we were there otherwise and had material to present. So if we're going to have future presentations, and I think I heard that, I'm sorry, I'm over here, but I'd like to know what the content is, I agree we talked to the new council and the new mayor, but if we're going out for community outreach, what are we going to tell them? We can tell them what our recommendations are so they can see the new council either adopt or ignore them or what. I don't know quite what that entails, but our next 4 months.
That's captured. That's very captured. And I know we're at time. And I'll send my reflections via email because I have so many. I'm gonna pass it over to Bill.
I will yield my time.
I think we lost the audio for folks outside the room.
I can't hear a thing.
Can't hear Bill. Or Destiny.
Our next meet. Can you hear me? Shoshana, can you? Okay, can you hear me? Turn down the audio.
Hello? Yeah.
This meeting will be recorded. We are over. Our next upcoming meetings are December 11th for the debriefing of the election, and also then January 14th with debrief with city and council elections offices. We did hear them. We're yielding our time. We will send a follow-up, again, trying to practice our ending of time. I do thank you, and I do hear you, and I hope you all have a restful and, processing evening. I appreciate you all.
And ditto. Thank you.